Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. It's Holy Week, and this is a unique time to be celebrating Holy Week. Normally we are in our churches often, we're with our friends and family sharing meals, sharing stories and reading scripture together and those types of things, and right now we simply can't do those types of things. As I reflected on Holy Week, I was thinking about the mix of emotions and the mixed experiences that Jesus and his followers had during that first Holy Week. If you remember, it starts with Palm Sunday, where Jesus is welcomed into the city as this conquering king, but he rejects that title, and he enters in on a donkey instead of on a war horse or something like that. But it's this time of celebration where Jesus is recognized as the rightful king. And then it progresses through the week to the Last Supper is a high point during this week where he's celebrating a final meal with his disciples. They don't know that he's going to be crucified yet, but Jesus does, but he still takes the time to celebrate a meal. And there's a little bit of somberness there too, because at that point Jesus reveals that he will be betrayed. And then it goes on to Good Friday, which is the day that Jesus is crucified. And so you go from the excitement of Palm Sunday to this celebratory meal that's got a little bit of somberness to complete devastation where Jesus is killed by the Romans, and it enters into this time of sadness and this bleakness. And then Easter comes, and when Easter arrives, you get this great celebration again, where it's a recognition that death and all of its systems and all of its sin and all of its evil can be and have been defeated, and at the resurrection, Jesus calls us into the process of defeating sin and death in our own lives, in our own cultures, in our own systems and societies. But thinking back on all of that, it kind of feels similar to where we are right now. There's this recognition that things are rough right now, a little bit like Good Friday, where it feels like death is around us. You can't turn on the news, you can't read anything without recognizing that people are sick, and people are dying, and there's anxiety in it too, because the reality is that the sickness is around us, and we can't see it, and we don't know who might be sick. We don't know if we might be sick. All of these things are a reality for us, and it's this somberness. But there's also celebration, like Palm Sunday, when Jesus is celebrated, even though he knows he's marching towards his death. There's still a celebration. We're hearing story after story of families reconnecting. We're hearing story after story of parents playing games with their kids, of getting unique times to spend with their children or with their loved ones. We're seeing communities band together and provide meals and provide clothing and shelter and all these things to people who are in need. So there's also this celebration of kind of a new rhythm of life, a new way of life that's good. And so just as Holy Week is this time of celebration, but also this time of mourning, because we know that eventually Jesus is going towards his death, but we also know that Jesus is King, as celebrated at the beginning of Holy Week. We have to remember that just as in Holy Week, Easter arrives, there is an end to this. Somehow, in some way, death is still going to be defeated, even in the midst of our current situation. That sickness, that illness, does not have the final say. Sickness and illness, those things are defeated by Jesus through his resurrection. And he calls us to play a part in that by doing things like caring for our bodies and caring for our neighbors. But ultimately, the victory over sin and death belongs to him. And so in the midst of this time of this virus that's kind of got us all trapped, but also experiencing new relationships or improved relationships with each other, this weird mix of emotion that we have right now, remember that Easter is coming. Remember that God has defeated this. We don't know how he's working it out right now. We might be confused about how he's defeated it, but he has. And we get to live into that reality. We get to be a part of this new life, this new resurrection, as we continue to defeat death and illness and brokenness in our circles. And it's done by really practical things, like taking care of our bodies, like taking care of our neighbors, making sure we do the things that our doctors are telling us to do, but also by doing the things we've practiced over the last few weeks, like recognizing joy and creating joy and celebration in the midst of it all. So be an Easter people. reflect on this time, this Holy Week time of, yes, there's celebration and there's anxiety and there's mourning, but ultimately this leads towards the defeat of all evil and wickedness and death. And we get to play a part in that. So in your homes, in your blocks, in your neighborhoods, as you're going for walks and things like that, make sure that we are Easter people during this time.